What's up, everybody? Neil here with InsureU TV, and today we're sitting down with my good friend Andrew Wright, who is a cybersecurity expert, and we're going to give everybody a little bit of education on cybersecurity. But before we just take Andrew's word for it, Andrew, what makes you a cybersecurity expert?
Oh, thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a fun discussion today. So I've been in the cybersecurity field for about a decade now and actually own a company called BTC Solutions that focuses on helping small businesses and government customers make their environment safer.
Okay, so you said a key word there, government. So if government authorities are trusting you with their cybersecurity, it's safe to say you're probably an expert.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right, so let's hop right in. I think the biggest issue these days is scams. There's scams galore. It feels like every single day I'm getting scam emails, scam text messages, scam notifications on my social media. So let's hop in. Tell us about scams. What are the most common types of scams you're seeing occur these days?
Email is really a huge vector for the hackers to try to get access to you. It's funny. If I walked up to you on the street and said, "Hey, I'm with Wells Fargo Bank. Can you give me your login and password so I can verify your account?" You'd think I'm crazy. But yet, if the hacker sends you an email that says, "I'm from Wells Fargo, give me your account information, please click here," people do it.
Yeah, which is crazy. But at the same time, I've noticed these hackers have gotten really sophisticated, and you can get an email that looks exactly like it came from Wells Fargo. So how are they achieving this? Even the domains that they're coming from, and for everybody, the domain is the web extension that it's coming from. Essentially, it looks authentic. It looks like it's coming from Wells Fargo. So how do people catch that and make sure that they're not falling for these types of scams?
Yeah, that's great. We've noticed more in the recent years, they're actually using a lot of the AI tools like ChatGPT to actually help craft those emails so they look better than they ever have. They're using all the AI tools that are helping us all, unfortunately, for negative reasons. One way to do that is actually go up there where you look at the from email address and hover over it or click on it, and it'll actually show you the email. So even though it'll look like Wells Fargo, you'll usually find that once you click on that email, it's something really obscure that is definitely not Wells Fargo, and it's easy then to spot that that was a scam and not a legitimate email from them.
Okay, so hover over the email that it was sent from. Don't click anything.
Yeah.
Hover over the email address, and it should essentially unmask what the actual email address that it came from was.
Yep, and if hovering doesn't work, just click on that. You're safe to click on that from email.
So is it ever safe to trust anything that comes from email, I guess, with the sophistication from these emails? Or do you just suggest people do not take any action in their email, just go directly to the company's website and see if there's anything that needs to be done?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing, great practice to start doing is going to the company's website. If you don't know exactly who it came from and you didn't request the information, just delete it. So when in doubt, delete those email messages. Don't respond to them. They'll get a hold of you if it was legitimate. They'll get a hold of you in a different way.
Okay. And essentially what these bad actors are doing when they're sending you these scam emails is they're trying to uncover your user ID and password, correct?
Yep. Or trying to have you click on a link that then redirects you to a website where then they can then launch malicious software towards your computer.
Okay. So if someone does click one of these links, I'm under the impression that it can launch a website that looks almost identical to the website. You plug in your username, you plug in your password, and now both of those are compromised, and these bad actors have all of those credentials.
That's exactly it. So they actually look at the real websites and copy them really, really well.
Other types of scams that I've personally experienced is people calling saying they're from tech support from a company, when probably they're not. What types of things should people be looking out for in circumstances like that?
Well, it's safe to say a tech company is never going to call you to help you work on your computer. You're going to need to initiate that conversation. But what we have been seeing more recently is minor malware being installed on your computer that then tells you your computer has been hacked. Call this phone number for tech support. We're seeing a lot of those, which are easy to fall for scams because you think something is wrong with your computer. Those are scams as well. So anytime you're reaching out and it's not a proactive, you called them and initiated, it's probably a scam.
Another one I'm sure everybody gets every single day is social media scams. I see people saying, "Hey, you added me as a friend again. Is that really you?" Or I'll get a notification saying I violated some sort of copyright. Click here to fix my account or to remedy that account so they don't delete my posts or my account. I'm assuming those are all scams as well.
Yep, all scams. What happens is people will duplicate accounts. So they may go in and create a second Facebook account looking like you, and then trying to garner information from other people as they reach out. So they use that account to then say you've been hacked to try to get more followers. Social media as a whole is a little scary. People share a lot of personal information online that then could come back and haunt them. As you know, when you go and set your password, it'll usually ask you a series of security questions. One, for example, is what was the first car you ever drove? Well, as a hacker, all I need to do is go and look at your social media account and see your first car was an '82 Civic because I see the picture of you in it,
Yep.
with your keys. Well, now I know the answer to your security question. So just be careful about what kind of information you're sharing on social media because it could come back and be used against you in a security event.
Okay, so just to touch a little bit on the impersonation accounts, like I'll see people post pretty frequently, hey, don't accept a friend request from me, I was hacked. So they're not really getting hacked. Their account's safe. It sounds like someone just purely made a duplicate account of theirs and is now impersonating that person, correct?
Yep, impersonating is very common. They use it to try to garner information. So maybe I could use social media as a great example, or maybe I could get access to an email address that's similar to yours and then send email requests to other people to make them think it's me.
So as far as solutions goes, to everything we've talked about, spoofs, fake calls, the social media, people pretending to be you, what are the best solutions to, I guess, prevent these types of things from happening for people? I'm assuming strong passwords.
Yeah, passwords is your first level of defense.
Okay.
And I know it's super easy to reuse that same password for every site, so you then don't forget the password. That's a horrible idea. It's very common. If you want to only remember one password, I highly recommend using a password manager. So there are built-in password managers on a lot of different systems, such as Google and phones, such as Apple. Those are great products. There's also other commercially available products. So with Password Manager, it can help you do multiple things. Number one, you only have to remember that one master password to then unlock all your other passwords. It also allows you to randomly generate passwords, so you know it's a very unique password, and it's not one that's going to be commonly reused or easily used in an attack.
So I'm assuming that when you do rely on a password manager like that, you have to be damn certain that that is a strong password, because if that one password is given up at this point to this password manager, all of your passwords are compromised. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the current standard right now in passwords is 12 digits.
Okay.
So it used to be 8 digits, but it's now moved to 12. And use words that you'll remember, but you can start to mix them up. So one example I like to say is, what is your dog's name? Okay, well, my dog's name is Spot. Okay, so instead of having Spot be your password, have it be I love Spot. And then you could start to add numbers or different things in there, but it's easy for you to remember, but it's not a common dictionary word. Because what the hackers will do is they'll do what they call a brute force attack, where they'll use a list of dictionary words and then test each one of those against your login and see if they can find it. But I love my dog Spot is definitely not in the dictionary.
Okay.
So the good thing is, if you're ever curious if your password has ever been seen in the wild, is there's different sites out there. Go ahead and search for them to see if your password has been used in a breach or found in a breach. So usually those will get posted, and then there's databases out there where you can actually test your email and your password.
Okay, awesome. And I know that I think a lot of the phones and email services have stuff like that now. I'll notice sometimes on my phone, like, hey, this password's not a good idea, or change this password, it's been found on this site. So that doesn't necessarily mean my password to my account has been, I guess, compromised. It just means that someone else out there might have used the same password as me, and it was compromised, and now my password manager is saying, hey, that password's been discovered out there, don't use that password. Correct?
Yep,
Okay.
that's correct. Password managers also will tell you time. So it's been over 6 months since you changed this password. It's a good idea to go ahead and change it. And you can set those time intervals up to whatever you feel is most comfortable.
Okay.
Passwords, a great saying I once said is passwords are kind of like underwear. Mm-hmm. Change them often.
So you said something a little earlier with regards to brute force. Most people probably don't know what that is. Can you just explain what brute force is?
It's where they actually just create a program that goes in and just constantly tries one password after another. Okay. So they can like list a database of passwords, a list of things, and then they can just kind of cycle through, and the computer does it all on their own. So they just have to hit a button and it goes through the different databases and tries all the different combinations. So it'd be similar if you had a padlock and you tried every single number on that padlock to unlock it. Okay. Well, eventually you keep trying and you try all the different thousands of combinations. You're eventually going to find the correct combination for that padlock.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's why most websites now, after like 3 failed login attempts, they lock your account down.
Yep.
Okay.
But since it's all automated on the computer, it doesn't take you nearly the time. It would take you days, if not weeks, to unlock a padlock where a computer can look through thousands of combinations in seconds.
I've noticed more and more websites these days, a password's not enough. It's making me enter an MFA or multi-factor authentication method. Talk a little bit about that. Why is that so important, and how much extra security does that really give to any accounts that you have?
Yep. As we said earlier, passwords are your first line of defense. Multi-factor, or sometimes referred to as two-factor authentication, allows a separate authentication method above and beyond your password. So sometimes they'll send you a text message with a certain code. It could be an email address. It could be a phone call. There's also devices out there. So instead of having the multi-factor come from your website, you actually have a little application you run on your phone or other device that then randomly generates these codes that are in sync, so you can use those codes as well, which is even safer than your email and your phone. It's just yet another extra layer of defense. I highly recommend people use multi-factor authentication on anything that contains financial or personal information, because those are really your keys to the kingdom, or your pot of gold. So those are going to be attacked the most, and so it's best to have an extra layer of security on those.
So with regards to the multi-factor authentication stuff, is there a tier 1, like, hey, this is okay, but you should probably use this method? How would you kind of rank these methods, and what is the risk of using a text, phone call, or email for your authentication versus these apps you were talking about?
Well, if your email account was compromised when they were getting your credentials to go after things, they could then go ahead and log into your bank account, which you do have multi-factor authentication enabled with, but then the email goes right to a compromised email account that they already have access to.
Okay.
So that is one of the risks. Also, if they gained access to your phone, maybe you lost your phone and they now have your phone, that those text messages will be going to them on your phone, and so then you lose that level of security. Where if you're using an outside authentication app, that's with you, so that's not as likely to be hacked.
A term I hear often is phishing, but it's spelled with a P, not like going out and fishing, but I think they're pretty similar, right? So can you explain what phishing is?
Very similar, it is. It's the bad actor or the hacker reaching out and trying to try different combinations to get somebody to bite on their malicious items. So email is a very common factor for phishing. They'll send out 1,000 email addresses hoping one person will come back and say, yes to the scam. Okay. So it's similar to when you're fishing with a rod and reel, right? You may cast 1,000 times to catch that one fish. It's the same thing. So it's just a large scale attack trying to get 1 or 2 people to respond.
So we've learned about all these, phishing attempts and, making sure you're keeping your passwords and stuff like that safe. But how the heck do you keep the actual devices themselves safe from malicious software and code being, downloaded on them?
Keep your systems up to date. Different operating systems release different updates all the time. Make sure you're applying those updates regularly and rebooting your computers after those updates are complete, because most of the updates you're getting are not enhancing the software. They're actually finding bugs in the software that could lead to leaks.
Okay.
Hackers are going to go try to find those machines first that haven't been patched or updated, and go after those first because the security holes have already been fixed in your systems. And this not only goes for operating systems like your Windows or your Mac OS, but also goes for your phone devices. Those are constantly being updated since they are out there. Now, those do add a little bit more features sometimes, but also most of it is for quote unquote bug fix, which usually means it was a security hole found somewhere.
Okay.
Same thing with the applications on your computer. So make sure those are up to date because those can also have things.
So are there any third-party applications out there that, help with, preventing virus installs and stuff like that, in addition to what's on someone's computer? And I guess more importantly, do people need an additional layer, or is trusting the manufacturer's baseline software updates enough?
Trusting the manufacturer is a good place to start. They're doing a better job today of keeping those up to date and having them be keep your computer protected. I recommend using another package just because it will add extra features.
Okay.
So certain antivirus or different packages out there can help protect your browser from not accidentally doing malicious code. They can check your websites and make sure they're clean before you go to them. They can inspect your downloads when you're downloading stuff on the internet before it gets to your computer. So they just have a lot of added features, but you definitely at least want to be running the minimum of the manufacturer's antivirus software.
So I know a fear of many is someone compromising your machine and essentially controlling it remotely. How common does that happen, and what types of things can you do to prevent someone from essentially hijacking your device?
I wouldn't say it's common, but it definitely happens. The good news is most of those things can be stopped because the hacker doesn't just instantaneously come down the wire and come into your computer.
Okay.
You have to let them in. So by letting them in, maybe you clicked a link that took you to a website through an email that took you to a malicious website that then installed software on your computer. But all that can be stopped by just not opening the door.
Okay.
So not clicking on those links if you don't know where they come from, not accepting email from people that you don't know.
Before we wrap this up, Andrew, is there anything else people should be doing to protect themselves from an identity theft standpoint?
Yeah, one thing I always recommend people to do is to lock down their credit reports. So you can actually go into the big three credit reporting agencies and actually put a lock on your account.
Okay.
So that way, no one can open any new credit in your name.
Okay.
So even if your identity was compromised, where they got your social security number and all the personal information to open a new credit card or apply for a bank loan, they would get rejected when they go to apply for a credit report.
Okay.
Because it's locked. And then you can always open it and unlock it when you actually do need to legitimately use it. But that is a huge protection.
Is there anything people can do right now to, I guess, essentially check if they've been compromised? I know you mentioned, you can check emails and you can check passwords using certain tools to see if they've been compromised, but what do you suggest people do to make sure their identity hasn't been compromised?
Definitely pull credit reports from the big three.
Okay.
Those will let you know if new accounts have been opened in your name or things have been applied. It even shows when people have just done a look at your credit.
That wraps up this episode of Insure You TV. Andrew, again, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Neil. This has been a great talk. I really appreciate the time.
For the best price without sacrifice, Insure You Colorado.